Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to try and get inside the strategic mind of Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO. We've got our hands on some excerpts from a really technical interview he did with SemiAnalysis, and it really unpacks their massive bet on AGI.
It's fascinating stuff. You're watching a company that we all think of as, a pure software giant.
Right.
And it's transforming itself right before our eyes into this capital-intensive industrial powerhouse. The CapEx numbers are just staggering.
So we're going to break this all down for you into three big themes. First, just the raw industrial scale of this AI infrastructure bet, the sheer physicality of it.
Yeah, the concrete and the fiber optics.
Exactly. Then we'll get into how that massive cost structure completely rewrites the software business model we all know.
Which is a huge deal.
And finally, we'll look at the global picture, the competition and this growing demand for national sovereignty in AI. The goal here is to really understand why Microsoft thinks this is the only way to win.
Okay, so let's start with that physical reality. I mean, the scale of the investment. We're talking about data centers like Fairwater 2,
Right.
which they're describing as the most powerful single AI facility in the world right now.
And the scale it's just hard to comprehend. Nadella's team is planning to 10x their training capacity every 18 to 24 months.
A 10x jump.
And Fairwater 2 alone is a 10x leap from what they used to train, say, GPT-5. But here's the stat that, for me, just changes everything.
Okay.
Fairwater 2 has about 5 million network connections. That's almost as many network optics as all of Azure had just 2.5 years ago.
Wow. That one statistic tells the whole story, doesn't it?
It really does.
Their core business is shifting from software logic to industrial-scale data movement. It's all about the network now.
So they're linking these massive facilities, Fairwater 2, Fairwater 4, Milwaukee, with this thing they call the AI WAN.
Right, a dedicated network. And the whole point is to aggregate flop-based computational power so you can link different regions together for these enormous training jobs.
But that creates a huge problem, right? A pacing challenge.
It absolutely does. You're in a frantic race against Moore's law, basically. The source material talks about this a lot. New chips are always coming out.
Like whatever comes after the Vera Rubin Ultra.
Exactly. And it'll have different power needs, different cooling needs. You can't just build one giant facility for today's chip because it's going to be obsolete in, 18 months?
So the strategy has to be more about hedging against that obsolescence. You can't just build it all at once.
You can't. Nadella calls it scaling in time. It means you're constantly rolling out new capacity with new hardware, not just building one giant fixed thing.
And that thinking led to that famous pause they did in their build-out last year.
It did, and it was a really smart move, a great example of avoiding, institutional risk.
So what was the risk?
They realized that if they didn't prioritize fungibility, the ability to swap things in and out, they'd get stuck. They could have become just a hoster for one model company.
Or get stuck with a massive investment in a single hardware generation that's already old news.
Precisely. So the course correction was all about fungibility, location, workload diversity, and maybe most important, customer diversity. You need to serve everyone, not just 5 big contracts.
And this industrial scale, it has a huge economic impact. I mean, the speed of this revolution is just unprecedented.
Totally. Think about railroads, industrialization. Those took decades. This AI transition is happening at warp speed.
The sources mention a projection for hyperscaler CapEx next year. It's $500 billion globally?
$500 billion. It's a sudden, massive industrial commitment. It's only happened a few times in history.
And Nadella seems to get the excitement right. He thinks it could be the biggest thing since the Industrial Revolution.
But he's also very grounded about it. He keeps saying we're still in the early innings.
Which connects to this philosophy they have, something from Turing Award winner Raj Reddy.
Yes, Reddy's metaphor is so important here. He says AI should be a cognitive amplifier.
Or a guardian angel.
A guardian angel. It immediately reframes the whole conversation. It's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting them. It's a tool.
Let's stick with that guardian angel idea for a second. That's a powerful way to put it. How does that actually, look in practice for them?
Well, it ties directly to the economics. Nadella's point is that true growth doesn't happen just because a few big AI models exist.
Right.
It happens with diffusion. It happens when the work artifact and the workflow has to change. The human process has to actually adopt the tool.
So it's less a technology problem and more a change management problem. They're trying to compress 200 years of change into 20 or 25 years.
Yes, exactly. And that incredible speed, plus the massive CapEx, brings us right to our second big theme.
The business model.
The complete transformation of the software business model.
Because traditional SaaS software as a service worked, because the cost for each new user was basically zero.
Pennies, yeah.
But generative AI has a really high cost of goods sold, COGS. Every time you run a query, it costs real compute. It breaks that beautiful old model.
So to manage that, Microsoft has to use a bunch of different revenue levers. Ads, transactions, device sales, subscriptions, and consumption meters.
So a subscription isn't just about access anymore. It's more like it's an entitlement to a certain amount of compute.
That's a great way to put it. It's about how much the model consumes for you. Think standard versus pro tiers.
And this has totally changed how they think about competition. The example of coding assistants is perfect here.
It's an amazing example. GitHub Copilot, which they own, went from almost 100% market share
A monopoly.
down to less than 25% in 1 year.
And if you just saw that number, you'd think they were failing, right? But the insight from Nadella is that the overall market for coding agents grew 10x in that same year.
It went from a $500 million run rate to something like $5 or $6 billion.
So the strategy is clear. It's not about market share percentage. It's about growing the whole pie. A smaller slice of a much, much bigger pie is still a huge win.
It's just
Which leads to the big question. Where does the value end up? Does it all go to the model builders or to the platforms that deliver the models?
And Nadella argues pretty strongly that the platforms, the scaffolding, will win in the long run.
Because the models themselves risk becoming a commodity.
Right. With open source maturing so fast and people building on existing checkpoints, making a slightly better model gets easier and easier.
So the platform wins because it handles the messy part,
Hmm.
making the model actually useful. It maintains what they call data liquidity for grounding in context.
Which is the infrastructure you need to feed any model relevant, up-to-date information. And this changes how you even think about their products, like M365.
He basically says it's not a software product business anymore. It's becoming an infrastructure business in support of agents doing work.
That is a mind-bending shift.
It is. And the business model has to shift with it. It goes from just billing per user to billing per user and per agent.
Because the autonomous agents need to be provisioned with their own computer, their own security, their own identity.
Like a digital employee.
Exactly. Which is where this concept they're building at GitHub comes in, something they call Agent HQ, or mission control.
Okay, so what's that?
Imagine a single dashboard where you can launch and manage multiple different agents. Maybe one from Codex, one from Claude, another from Grok, all in one subscription.
So you're not just using an assistant, you're managing a team of them. You're the control plane for autonomous work.
You got it. You monitor their work in separate branches so they don't break anything. The platform absorbs all that complexity for you.
Okay, so let's talk about the tech that's actually powering this. Microsoft seems to have this dual model strategy.
They do. First, there's the OpenAI partnership. It's deep. They have IP access to the GPT family system design for the next 7 years.
But the details of that deal are really important for understanding the Azure side of things.
Super important. The pay-as business for OpenAI. That's platform as a service, the basic API calls. That is Azure exclusive.
But the SaaS business, like the main ChatGPT product, that can run anywhere.
Right. The way to think about it is, if you want OpenAI to cook you a custom meal with their base ingredients, you have to use Microsoft's kitchen. But if you're just buying the standardized meal kit, they can sell that anywhere.
But any custom stateful work where the model has to remember you, that still has to run on Azure.
Correct. But they're not just relying on that partnership. They're also building their own internal model capability, MAI or Microsoft AI.
And the goal isn't just to copy OpenAI, right?
Not at all. It's a strategic hedge. They're building models specifically for cost optimization, for low latency, for specialized tasks. They already have an image model out, and an Omni model is next.
Combining audio, image, and text. And to support that, they're building their own chips, Maya 200 and Cobalt.
Which gives them that tight feedback loop between their own models and their own silicon. It's all about driving down that high cost of goods sold.
But at the same time, they're very careful to say there's still a speed-of-light execution partner for NVIDIA.
Well, they have to be. NVIDIA is still the industry standard. They can't risk their whole massive infrastructure on a single proprietary chip. It's a balancing act.
Okay, so last big theme. The global dynamics. The world today is Very different from the 90s when Windows and Office just dominated everything.
It's a completely different world. You have sovereign AI efforts popping up everywhere. Europe, India, you have huge competition from Chinese tech giants. It's what the experts are calling a bipolar world.
And Nadella's take on this is that trust is the key feature.
It is. His point is that U.S. tech holds 50% of the global market cap because, historically, the world has trusted American institutions and technology. You have to maintain that trust with something as foundational as AI.
So to do that, they're having to adapt. They're building what they call sovereign services on Azure.
Things like identity controls, confidential computing, local key management, all to address those global concerns about data residency.
And in some places, they're building entire sovereign clouds, right? Like in France and Germany, where the data literally never leaves the country.
It's all about giving nations resilience and agency. By supporting multiple models, including open source, and offering these sovereign options, they're addressing that concentration risk that governments are so worried about.
That fear of getting locked into a single supplier or, a single political reality.
Exactly. So what you're seeing is a complete shift. Microsoft has gone from being a pure software company to a capital-intensive, knowledge-intensive industrial business.
Where all that software know-how is now being used to maximize the return on invested capital, the ROIC on these huge global hardware fleets. The platform is the factory floor.
That's it, perfectly.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this? We've seen that the real economic value is going to be in that scaffolding layer. The platforms that manage and coordinate autonomous agents, that Agent HQ idea.
Because that's where the workflow actually gets redefined. The tools you use every day for coding, for writing, they're all turning into control panels for these autonomous entities.
So you have to be really selective about where you're committing your time and, more importantly, your data.
So this brings up a critical question for you to really think about. What platforms are you using right now that are best positioned to become that next generation's Agent HQ? And are you betting your time and your data liquidity on the right ones that are going to give you maximum augmentation and control?